make a motion to pass minutes dated December 20th, 2023. If anybody has any comments or corrections, everybody have a chance to read them. If not, I make a motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved. Jack. Get your notes out.
Yeah, I got it nice and big so I can see it. All right, so I'll give you the, I like to usually start with the stats to date. So far to date, we've been on 71 EMS alarms. And as you know, I've reported in the past that we now go out on fire calls if there's a need for standby. And so far this year, we've been on 20 of those. So the calls are up a little bit. Historically, in 23 to date, we had 44 calls. In 22, 54, 21, 53, and in 20, we had 30. So we're definitely 20, 30 calls above normal, but it usually planes out. We had election of officers for the squad for the year. That remains the same. Mark came back in as chief, Anne Marie as assistant chief, Kathy Rasmussen as captain, and Ollie Campbell as lieutenant. Couple financial things that we had happen. We had a family that had a loss that called us that we helped on and was interested in purchasing a piece of equipment. We opted to upgrade one of our stretchers to a bariatric stretcher to help accommodate large people. And we've used it on a few calls and it's done us well. It, rather than, as we all know, like on the side of a hospital bed, there's the side railings. Those railings go sideways out. So it accommodates probably 12, 14, 16 inches on each side. And the mattress, which is kind of made to hold the patient, is formatted a little bit differently. So the whole thing's a home run. I think it was around $3,700. And that was donated from a family member of somebody that they lost in memory. So that we used that in good faith to purchase that equipment. As far as membership, we have 2 people still out on medical leave. Last quarter, I reported we had 2 new members. One of those has resigned. They found that they didn't have the time to put in. The other one has been proceeding through training and is on calls. And we had a 3rd pickup at our last meeting. Kathy Rowland applied for membership, which we graciously accepted her. She's already been through training and she's already been on several calls within the weeks that we've had her. So she's looks like a home run for the agency as well. Some of the training that we've done in the last quarter, the town purchased some additional CO monitoring equipment. CO seems to be an issue that was maybe not quite assessed as it should have been. We had 1 unit. It's very pricey. I think about $7,400 for the unit just to monitor CO. We had some monies available at the end of the year. We purchased 2 additional units, so each ambulance has the ability to monitor CO in the patient. And our heart monitors also do that. So we now have the ability to monitor 6 patients, which is not unrealistic. If you have a house that has an alarm and the fire department's detecting CO, we could very easily have 4 or 6 people in the house or a fireman or 2 during that operation. So the 6 units will be used well. And, you know, it was probably something necessary. We had a couple issues at a commercial establishment in the Heights where we had numerous patients that needed to be assessed. And it's not just a quick check. it's something that we have to continually monitor. So once we start somebody with that treatment, we have to kind of, that equipment is utilized to maintain treatment of that patient.
I
So
don't
that's,
even know what that is. Is it like a pulse ox, but it can
it's a
monitor?
pulse ox, but it's, yeah,
CO?
technology is monitoring CO.
Wow.
What's the threshold that you're using for initiating 100% oxygen?
10 parts.
Times the number, yeah.
Yeah, 10 parts on the monitors. The CO is a little interpretive because as we know, like people that smoke normally have a 5 to 7, roughly, I might be off a little bit, or a 4 to 5. They're already halfway there on a good day. But anywheres around a 10 is somebody that we monitor. What's been happening with the paramedics is we try to get them out in fresh air, we give them some oxygen, we check them for maybe a half hour and see if it's really necessary to go to the hospital. If you have a very light exposure, it can be resolved just by getting out of the environment. Firemen, we rehab firemen, we don't just pack them up and take them to the hospital. We try to resolve their issue and get them back in service. So, any questions on the CO?
Sorry.
Yeah, now it's a home run. Some of the other trainings that we had besides the CO, we did training on the bariatric stretcher on its use. We reviewed some oxygen deliveries techniques, and we're looking at an advanced airway that there's a pilot program in the state, the iGel. If you're up on those, it's kind of an intermediate skill that more basic people can do than the advanced care people. So it's an alternative to intubating, but it's also a option if, like the basic EMTs don't have any advanced airway option. So we're looking at that. The pilot program, the way it works is there's a couple doctors that, I believe it's in Rochester or Albany, I can't remember which, have a squad that they oversee. They've set up a research to conduct this and see what the field success is. And a lot of agencies have jumped on board to be involved in the pilot program. Usually when it gets to the state offering the pilot program, it means it's not too soon down the road, it's going to be in their training. We did that with the EMTs doing EKGs. All of our EMTs were doing EKGs. We were one of the first pilot programs in the state that did that. Now that's standard. So that's
Paramedics are credentialed to intubate though, correct?
correct.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, and I just found out the paramedics from Stony Brook have surgical intubation training now. So as a absolute last resort, they can surgically insert.
So they do a crike.
Yeah.
I think it's more than that.
Well, that's what it is. Yeah.
Yeah, in essence. So that's something new to our county. And that's obviously an extremely last resort attempt. But that option is here. We have that. All right. We had a class that I gave on, it's a standard EMT class on dealing with inside of a crime scene. So EMS operations within a crime scene, not to disturb evidence or to help identify. They have intimate contact with the patient who might reveal something, or they might see something that other people aren't seeing because of the medical relationship. And we talked about how that transforms into turning that information over and walking through a crime scene. Nowadays, all those things are very critical, that we maintain certain things. We had a serious call, which I'll keep off the name, but that turned into a very serious incident where all those steps of EMS will be scrutinized as all of the steps. So, and we did a good job. We already had our gloves checked as part of that investigation. That's how critical these things get. So we did a nice class on that for a couple hours one night. And last, we had a pediatric class last week on pediatric assessment and anaphylactic emergencies related to pediatric care, which we don't deal with that often, but when we do, besides the patient potentially being critical, it's more emotional. for the families and stuff. So it's a lot of dealing with the entire family with the medical emergency, because a lot of those we know are not as serious as the emotional aspect of it. So we had a nice lecture on that class. The ambulance went this week, March 19th, so I guess yesterday, to a fire academy class with the fire department. We agreed, as everyone knows, that we go along with them to not only be there in case somebody gets injured, but to participate in their firematic training. And they had a class on forcible entry up in Yaphank. So we had a crew go up and participate in that. We finally have been able to secure some EVOC training. So that's emergency vehicle operations training. Anyone that operates an emergency vehicle obviously needs to know how to handle the vehicle and know the constraints. You know, it's not a free-for-all, and they will be held accountable for their actions, just like any of us would in emergency work. So we try to do that annually. The last few years, we've done it with just a classroom. With this particular program that we have, we've hired a company to come in. They're actually going to do set up an EVOC course, not high speed. It's more about backing and turning and that type of operation of the vehicle. You know, it's a fallacy, especially here on Shelter Island, that ambulances travel fast. We actually usually travel under the speed limit because we have a lot of people at risk in the back, and there's just no need to speed around here in an ambulance world for us. So we will go through that in the EVOC class. So we're going to have that 2 different dates so everyone can be involved with that. So it's going to be a required class to go through that. The fire department is hosting in April a lithium-ion battery for like electric vehicle. You know, those are very specialized incidents nowadays. It's very different than what we're used to. And we'll have about 15 people that signed up to take that class. I believe the police department, the fire department, and possibly the ferries will be doing that training in April. All right, a couple updates. We talked about last quarter about the ferry companies getting radios that are capable of communicating with our ambulances. That's trickling in the equipment. So I'm hopeful that by the end of April, that'll be up and running. Part of that as well was the 2 ferry companies chipped in to duplicate some of our ambulance radio equipment. So if we have a system failure, we'll have a backup system, which we don't currently have. So that was partially funded by the 2 ferry companies, which was very nice. And we'll make an announcement when that comes to head. The building renovation, the superintendent of grounds, the highway superintendent, buildings and grounds, he put it out to bid in the paper. The process, I'm told today, over the next week or so, he should be receiving the bids. If there are any bids, they'll be opened and somebody hopefully will be awarded the project. The project is to expand the front of the building 3 or 4 feet, mainly to accommodate the bigger size ambulances nowadays. The 2 ambulances shut nearly touching the front bumper with the door. So we have to expand the building. That's what it's all about. A big thing that we are trying, which I thought was a great idea, we've implemented shift scheduling with the agency, and we're starting to find, and I don't know if it's, you know, we get into these things and sometimes it's seasonal. People are starting to get ready with their jobs and spring things are happening. We've had a decrease in membership on calls. You know, we still have been able to staff an ambulance on every call, but they've been kind of thin. So we kind of, as the officers and I met, and we tried to look at why are those things happening, and some of the variables we're trying to resolve with shifts. And I think it's going to help. There are some members that haven't been able to go on any calls because, you know, their lives have changed. They have kids, they have family, either issues or changes, work changes, occupations jobs that no longer allow volunteers to go on calls. Believe it or not, that's something that we're struggling with. Used to be carte blanche. Every business loved to have their people go and help the community. That's not so much anymore. We have a couple members that are not allowed to go when they work. So that is restraining. So what we're trying as a program is to set up shifts where they can commit to a certain amount of hours and get some type of credit because they have to be active to continue in the agency. So believe it or not, Mark, there's a high number. If you had to guess it, I wouldn't have guessed. But since February 1st is when we started it, we've had 75 shifts filled with people that committed time to do it like an 8-hour block or a 4-hour block.
So they're kind of on call, like,
So what we're doing is anybody can still go anytime, but at the bare minimum, if you're on call, you have to go and you have to be prepared to go to the hospital for the full call. One of the things that's part of the variable that we're looking at, we seem to be doing a lot more transporting to Southampton. It's very strenuous on the agency to be going 2.5 hours with a volunteer more frequently. It used to just be once in a while. It's frequent.
Why is that? People have got now say, I don't want to go to East Hampton.
It's
Eastern Long Island.
it's not that we do that. We look at the most appropriate thing is first. What is the most appropriate medical facility? Strokes, they have a stroke unit over there. That's obvious. Those are easy. Local doctors that only work over that way, or predominantly work over that way. That has influence, so pediatrics, we always try to go to Southampton. They're better equipped. I don't want to say the others not, but it's just a more logical place to go. Or if somebody is giving birth, they have those facilities there. They do that there. All right. CAT scan availability, we have to look at that. If somebody needs a CAT scan and ELI doesn't have one up and running or no tech working to operate it, it doesn't make sense to bring them where the services are not. So we're inheriting the longer transport on more calls. And it is sometimes a choice of the patient, which we try to accommodate if we can. But if we have 2 ambulances out and the third one comes in, it's probably not going to Southampton. We just have to be smart. So
What do you do with like the medical box? Like, does Eastern Long Island still swap it?
Yeah.
But what Southampton doesn't do that.
correct. And the paramedics use their own medications that they supply. Yep. All right. So any questions on any of that? I know that's kind of a new thing that we're doing with shifts, but it's very simple that we have the technology in place. We have an app that the ambulance people get paged out on. It has a shift scheduling component to it. So on their phone, they can sign up for a particular schedule, and everybody gets to see it. Every morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, we get a shift report that goes to everyone. So you can see if it's one of those days that you had other things to do and there are people around, it could be a good day to do that. So it not only does it help us cover the shifts, but it gives other members the ability to kind of do things when you feel that you can.
Is everyone required to sign for a shift?
So right now, we do not have that, but they can get up to 10 points in their LoSAP to do standby. Not towards calls, as if you don't know, LoSAP has 2 components. You have to be on 10% of the calls of an agency. This is a state thing, not us. 10% of the calls to get 25 points on the left. And on the right is training, standby, parades, meetings, all that other, you need another 25 points. So you need to have both sides of that to qualify for the LoSAP program. So some of our people that had all these extra things going on in their life where they haven't been able to do some training, they can't come to all the meetings, they can get up to 10 of those points standing by. So we're trying to help them with that.
So everyone is not required?
Correct. As of right now, like I said, we just instituted it. We're talking about, one of the possibilities is we might say that every member has to do a couple shifts a month. But we're not at that level yet. Doc?
What's the utilization? What's the highest utilization for the shifts? Is it after 5 o'clock in the evening or before? Have you
So,
looked at that to see what they?
yeah, they kind of did it, we set it up, the hours, and I might be off a little bit. It's, we have a morning shift, which is 6 AM. What are the shifts, Mark? There's a morning, afternoon.
6 to 12, the night shift is 6 PM to 6 AM. There's an afternoon shift from 4 to 8, I believe it is.
Yeah,
So it's not large, the
They're 4
overnight
hours.
is a large block of time, because
Okay.
nobody's gonna sign up.
Yeah,
for
we have a
6
morning,
night.
a noon, an afternoon, and the evening is an 8 hour. So the way that works for the points, you don't get double the points. If you have what they call a sleep in, we don't do that, but we are considering being home on call, sleeping in. If you do 8 hours, you get the same credit as somebody that's during the day did 4,
Okay.
1 point.
But when are the most runs? Which shift would have the highest utilization roughly? Do you have an idea?
It's been about pretty balanced.
It's balanced. It doesn't.
You know, there's a lot of people that work later, and like Ollie Campbell's a dispatcher, he works a lot of nights. He's our 6 AM guy. He does those morning shifts, which is a great one. And then you have other people that
You
work
meant
during
the
the
call.
day.
I meant
No,
the
the call, not the server, not the staff member, the call.
When are the
Yeah,
most
when are the
calls?
most
When do you get the
calls?
most calls?
Well, the most
Which
calls
shift?
are typically between 9 and 11
Yeah.
statistically.
In the
Yeah,
evening, in the evening,
In the morning,
oh, in the morning.
believe it or not, yeah. Yeah, I'll bring it to the next meeting. I run those all the time because it's,
Okay.
you know, people will, even the members themselves would be like, you know, they would never believe it, but the stats are right out of the reports that we do. But 9 AM, my guess is that a lot of our population waits until the morning. Right? They don't want to bother people. It's not that critical. They can suck it up until morning, and all of a sudden we get a lot of 8, 9 AM calls. I think they're thinking, okay, business is up and running. Let's get that ambulance over here.
Or their kids call them and say, what do you mean? You're
Yeah.
short of breath.
Yeah. Or they try to weather out the night and say, let me sleep on it, see what happens if it doesn't. Yeah, so 9 to 11 is our window of call time, highest. So working on that, that seems to be working well so far. So the members have a uniform and equipment account. The town funded that again this year, so I was able to fund their accounts. It's an electronic account with an equipment company that manages it for us. So the member could go and order up what they need to replace or whatever. It is subject to approval to make sure that they're ordering stuff within the scope of what they do. That was funded. And the last thing on training I had here was that all the members have been or will by the end of April been recertified in CPR, which is always a big hurdle to get accomplished. But Mary Carnival has done some classes. I'm going to do a couple to pick up the residual, and we'll have everybody done by April going into the summer, because then we get too busy. And then the last thing I had on my notes was at our monthly meeting, we were lightly discussing the dinner, the awards dinner, and it seems that the consensus of the group, just to put a little change to it, wants to be more involved, which is great. Some people to help you. And we already have 2 people that volunteered to be on that committee to help you get it organized. There's a lot of good ideas of the venue and the time are the 2 big struggles that we can't get much agreement on. 2 different schools, you know, me personally, I like it at the end of the season, but it also is very hard to give the annual awards when we're already halfway through another season. Like if we acknowledge somebody for being the volunteer of the year, it's for more than a year ago.
Mhm.
So it's kind of not timely.
Yeah.
So the spring seems to work for that. But I also it's also nice to have a get together at the end of the season when we've all worked hard all summer with calls as kind of a, acknowledgement of that. So that'll be for you guys to decide.
It's up to them. It's their dinner
Yep,
or
and the
award,
venue.
So, yeah. Well, the venue is also price point,
Yep. Yep, but there was some I'll just throw it out there. There was some discussion, not just, it was during COVID, I believe. We went out
on
on
the ferry.
the ferry cruise, which I thought was kind of neat and unique. And we hired a caterer, so we had a really nice function. The only limitation because of COVID, we were only limited to, I forget what it was, 40 people. That's all they could put on the boat for COVID restrictions. And we weren't allowed to invite any guests outside of our group because we're about 36 in membership. So even spouses, that we need to acknowledge them because they are also part of the team that allows the volunteer to go do the work. It's a team effort. We know that. So that's what the dinner is important to be able to accomplish.
Well, that also, the ferry is 100% dependent upon the weather. And if you get a caterer to do it, you can't just say, oh, hold off, we're doing it next week.
Yep.
So that's the problem with that.
So you got to get on it. In case it's a May, June thing, you're going to be tight for
And always
time.
go back to Gardiner's Bay.
Gardiner's Bay was an excellent venue and they're very accommodating and treated us well.
Okay.
So that's all I have unless anyone has any questions. Bob?
So Jack, of the runs, the 320 plus runs, let's say annually, would a plurality of those runs be June, July, and August?
Let me have that all for you. I don't want to misspeak, but I can tell you in July and August, we're moving. We're doing
Mm.
a lot of calls. There could be, I think last August, we did 50 some calls in the month of August alone. Yeah, so,
Yeah,
but unfortunately, we're coming in already 20 ahead of normal. So
right.
if this is a gauge of what we're in for, I don't know. The good thing that and I'll have the number for you, is that the paramedic program, another good, I have to keep talking about all the good because it is a lot of good. The other thing that it does is there are a lot more people that don't actually have to go to the hospital. The medic can clear somebody and say, you have the flu, it's going to be a day or two, they're not going to do anything differently at the ER, and we can let people stay home. And, they
Which
feel
cuts
that,
down on
if
ambulance
they
time,
want.
too.
Yeah, so that number, has reduced our transporting. It reduces, economic impact to the family. If they don't have insurance, they got to pay whatever it is, $1,200 for an ER check-in to say, go home, you got the flu, or you're COVID, go home. There's nothing we do differently here. It's just the realities of it. So that to me is huge. It's a lot. I want to say it's in the teens now of percent that we are treating, releasing at home.
And the payment to Stony Brook, Jack, what did it come in as the annual for is it 440?
I want to say 453 if I had to guess. Yeah, I don't know the number off the top of my head. It was, because we had a little increase, but I believe it was 453, not including ferrage, which we pay for, not Stony Brook. And that's it.
Does the agency buy the gasoline for the vehicle?
No, we do not, all expenses are incurred in that 453. Their medications, equipment, everything that they do is one price. So it's kind of easy to figure. Yep. And that cost factors in their employee medical and all that. They have an actual formula
Oh, yeah.
that does that. So, Amber, am I close on that number, 453?
Yeah, I'm looking it up right now.
Roughly, just so I don't,
430, well, yeah, 431, 250,
there you go, 431,
because we pulled out the ferriage.
right.
431. Oh, just saved
There
20,000.
you go.
I like
Well,
it.
we really didn't, because I think the ferrage is probably 7.
Yes.
Okay,
We
that
have
brings you to
8,500.
30.
Yeah, it's just the way that they broke it out, but yeah. Yep, and you know, it's great success, the medic program, I think. Everyone that experiences them, it's all been very positive. We haven't had any issues along the way. You know, and I'm very comfortable knowing that we have somebody like that here all the time. You know, we only had the daytime in the beginning, and then we had to make a big decision about doing the night coverage. But, you know, when you're having chest pains at 3 a.m, it's going to be a good sight seeing the paramedic come in.
What do they do? Just sit in the lounge area?
They do.
Ooh.
Yep. Yep, but they're used to that. That's what they do. Yeah. Some of them go out and about. I think once the summer comes and it's nice out, you'll see them out. You know, this time of year, what do you really do around here? But in the summer, they'll probably be down the beach, and a couple of them look like they move around. Yeah. So, any other questions for me? Doc?
Okay, we talked about the Shelter Island dinner.
Is there a committee already? Is it something I
You
could
picked two
volunteer
people,
to be
right?
on?
There are Christina now Dalton and Rachel Medina. Well, Rachel, Rachel Firm,
Oh, okay.
Medina. And Christina was Necknez, and she just married with TJ. She works at the yacht club.
What's her last name?
Dalton now.
Dalton. Okay.
And I vaguely remember many years ago going to the yacht club. That was an extremely nice venue as well. So I don't know, between a couple
We
people.
just need a sponsor if we want to go. That would be fun.
Jim
but,
Preston?
well, remember there was a problem there, so they forgot that we were coming.
Whoa.
Whoa, just a little detail. Marion Brownlee was not amused. Neither was, it was back then when Joy was, it
Yeah.
was still Red Cross, yeah. I think they realized it like an hour before and
You get that ice ready, man.
yeah, I don't think we actually ate dinner until like 10 o'clock that night.
Oh, my God.
Very lady.
Yes.
Very
Remember?
well
Yeah.
done.
The other thing I didn't mention, I didn't put on the list, but it's in my thoughts for probably in the next month or so, is that we're going to do a little outreach to the seniors, because it seems like they're always looking for things to do, and we'll maybe do a overview of our agency and bring the senior people up to speed on what's really, available here. And I think it's always reassuring when you hear of all the stuff that really, it's not an ambulance that brings you to the hospital. It's really an extension of the ER that comes to your door. They carry every heart medication, everything. They have it all.
At the Presbyterian Church one,
Yeah.
dinner bell or whatever they call it. Okay. Mark?
Foundation is up and running, doing very well. Third week in May is EMS week. The hospital recognizes us. We send out our letters the third week in May. We're on par financially to do what we've been doing. Like I said, through the foundation, like Jack said, we did the bariatric stretcher, which was a big plus. And things are just going along.
Any old business?
Peter, just one thing to add to the foundation, because I forgot, I had it in my head and I didn't write it down. The foundation also got some money available and donated funds for the purchase of chairs for the training room. So we were able to get all new chairs through the foundation. So thank you, Mark, and the people on the board for that. We had them sitting in those CME classes that we sponsored for 8-hour days, and
Yeah.
all of a sudden they said, we're getting new chairs.
Yeah, no, it was tough.
And we got them already. It's already, it'll be,
Yeah, they're all running, they're all up and running.
Isn't that building interior due for like an update, like the carpet and paint and everything? It's all original.
yep.
No old business, any new business? If not, any more questions or anything, close the meeting, make a motion to close the meeting at 5:06.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
So moved.
Jack, thank you.
Thank you.